Right then, so good morning everybody. Welcome to the Building Blocks podcast, episode 4, which today we're going to look at the Pagabo Foundation. So we've got two trustees with us today. We've got Elizabeth Hardwick-Smith from Pagabo and Sarah Fraser from Wilmot Dixon. And we also have Jason Stapley, who's director from Pagabo, and he was his sort of idea really to start the foundation. So they're going to be our sort of three guests today. I'm Gerard Topless. I'm the executive chairman at Pagabo, and I'm going to chair today's session. So I'm going to start by asking my guests just to introduce themselves and their company. So I'll start with Elizabeth.
Hi Gerard, so I'm Elizabeth Smith, I'm Director of HR and Training at Pagabo. We're a national property and development consultancy, and we provide lots of different services right across the industry, from architecture to quantity surveying, structural engineering and civil engineering. We're a long established practice, and I've been with them 18 months.
Brilliant. Sarah, do you want to tell us about yourself and your company?
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Fraser. I work at Wilmot Dixon, and I've been there for about 15 years now. My role at the moment is to head up the Wilmot Dixon Foundation, which I find a real privilege. There's lots of overlaps between what we're doing and the Pagabo Foundation as well. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about these issues together.
That's great. Okay. And finally, but not least, Jason, do you want to introduce yourself? We all know who you are, Jason, but if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the foundation. And actually, tell us a little bit about the reason that you thought about setting it up in the first place and bringing us on this journey.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Stapley. I'm the managing director and one of the co-founders of Pagabo. Worked here now for 7 years. So at the very start of going down this journey, we're basically a compliant framework provider to the public sector. We currently manage around about £2.6 billion worth of goods, works and services throughout the whole of the UK. So very much within the construction industry space as well. I'd probably say there's about 2.2 billion of those is actually in the work side of things. So yeah, really, the reason why we started going down this route was, suicide is something, I think, and mental health affects us all really, I think. And again, I think it's one of the biggest killers that we found in the whole of the UK, and it affects young men in many ways, really. So, and the main contributors to that is poor mental health is things like long hours, job uncertainty, tight deadlines, and financial pressures. So really, I was really wanted to get involved in this, and again from personal experience as well. One of my close friends at school, who worked in the construction industry, he actually committed suicide around about 2 years ago now. We found out about this actually after the funeral. They'd been suffering in silence, and really I felt that it's really sort of close to my heart really that we needed to do something throughout the whole of the construction industry. So that's probably the main reason why we sort of initially kick-started this and thought, yeah, let's do something. Let's do something positive and good for the industry.
It's a real, that driver for you personally, Jason. It's a strong base to build this sort of foundation on. It's obviously very, we do hear from it, we do see it. If we just ask sort of Elizabeth and say, look, you're in the construction industry, you're in the built environment. How have you seen it? What's your experience of mental health in our sector, in pre-construction, but also in construction? What do you think is happening?
So in my role, I'm working very closely with line managers and employees on workplace wellbeing. So I'm really at the front end of it, and we can be supporting colleagues who are struggling with their mental health, or looking at strategies and initiatives for staying well. So I'm starkly aware of the need to make sure we're getting the mental wellbeing agenda right for people. As Jason says, we've got multiple demands on people. The lack of resource, the long hours, as he's described, people working away from home, but also for professionals in the industry, the pressures that they're putting on themselves to perhaps reach a certain point in their careers or be seen in a particular way by peers. I think there's so many variables that people are having to juggle, and that is creating an immense sense of pressure. And it can affect anybody at any level in the organisation. So you might have a colleague who's at their best one year, and then the next they're not. Something's happened to tip the scales, and perhaps they're getting to near crisis point or at crisis point before they can even admit to themselves that they've got something that they need some support with, and before they reach out to others. I think people unfortunately still have a sense of feeling embarrassed if they have a mental health problem, or they don't want to admit that they need help with something. They like to be seen that they can cope, and I think that's very common. Our human nature is that we hide ourselves, and we can have a facade for so long, but then that unfortunately falls eventually, and sometimes it's too late. By the time people do start to speak up, as I say, they've reached a crisis point. And what I also see is line managers not knowing how to have conversations with people. They feel concerned that they'll get it wrong. They feel awkward. So there's a whole sort of domino effect that I see happening. People who sort of need the help, who need to have regular signposting and consistent signposting, knowing that it's okay to talk and okay to speak up, and then people there who are equipped to have that conversation with them.
So that's great. I mean, that's fantastic in terms of a good assessment of what's going on. I mean, I'm of the age where I probably in my career when I started, it was shrug it off, get on with yourself, kick, pull your socks up, and all those sort of terminologies that were used. And that's just not the way we do it now. It's not the way we're starting to do it. I mean, Sarah, following on from Elizabeth there, I know Wilmots have done a lot of work on mental health first aiders, etc. Do you want to tell us a little about your experience, your view, and maybe about that program as well?
I think I'd love to, actually, because obviously I've been reflecting on my experience over the last 15 years or so, and picking up on what you said, Gerard, it's changed immensely. And Elizabeth summed up fantastically for us the environment that we're in. And I have witnessed personal and the sometimes tragic impact of mental health in our business with colleagues, and you can't help but be touched by those, but there is a glimmer of hope. I do see it changing. It was 4 years ago we started really introducing mental health first aiders into the business. We've now got over 300 of those trained up, and one of the things that's really interesting is we had to start off with, to go and find those volunteers, we had to do a bit of cajoling, a bit of this is really important, but now we've got waiting lists of people who want to do that because they see the benefit for themselves as well. Something Elizabeth also said, and you touched on, Gerard, was the fact that there's a difference between having a supportive culture, a preventative culture in place, as well as then the opportunities for people to seek help as well. And for me, one of the most positive signs that I saw in the business was 18 months ago. A fairly senior colleague in the business stood up at one of our conferences, so in front of 300 people, and told his story about how he had had a challenge with his mental health during that time. And everyone in the bit, you couldn't help but be touched. But to just to have these conversations now in the open, and to give people permission to talk. We are doing toolbox talks on all of our sites to make sure that there is an awareness and a permission to talk. Now, it's going to be interesting in this new way of working, and this might be a conversation that we have with the foundation going forward, because it's much harder to listen and see signs when we're not all face to face all the time, and pick up on some of those nuances. So that will be a challenge. But absolutely seeing the positive impact of having those mental first aiders in the business accessible for people to talk to, and those programs that they've gone through. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, I was just making it just a little note there. You know, to have somebody who's been through a challenge like the individual, and for them to stand up in front of their peers and be able to talk about it and be encouraged to talk about it, that is, I mean, that's a massive step forward for our industry. So, you know, I think that is absolutely fantastic. Elizabeth, have you seen stuff like that? I mean, are you encouraging people at PICS to do that?
Yeah, so we're on a journey at Pick Everard. It sounds like Wilmot Dixon are probably a little bit further on in the journey than we are, but we're taking a blended approach to mental well-being. So, as I've sort of mentioned before, we're thinking about the proactive element. How do we educate people so that they can manage their own wellness? And so that they can sort of recognise in themselves what are their triggers, and you know, what are some of those things that they can do to help build some personal resilience. And then we also have got mental health first aiders. We're just about to actually double the number of mental health first aiders that we've got in the organisation. And I think certainly the unusual circumstances we've had over the last few months have you know, pushed it even more up the agenda. For us as a practice to make sure that we're looking after people's mental well-being, and also not just saying, you know, reach out and talk, but if you can't talk, text, and you know, or email. Sometimes that's much easier for people to sort of put something in writing, and for us to proactively look for trends. So we see absences, you know, people as I say, you're sort of getting near to crisis point or going off long-term absence, but it's also spotting those trends in terms of short-term absences. And often people are unfortunately disguising the reasons as to why they're off. So we need to be proactive in identifying that and talking to people. I worked previously at another consultancy in the industry, and we were getting people to talk about their mental health. And we signed the Time to Change pledge, and also had people share stories internally about their own mental health challenges. And the response to it was overwhelming. You know, absolutely amazing that we were able to create that right climate for people to speak out and speak about the things that were causing those stressors. But also, it is our responsibility to look at the conditions that are causing these mental health issues in the first place. And it's incredibly complex, but we do have to get to the core of the issue. I think the signposting is fantastic and the support's fantastic. There's a little bit of work to do, I think, also on, you know, what is the right environment for people to be thriving. Yeah,
I mean, a point I just picked up on what you said there, Elizabeth, was it's not just what they're saying, it's what they're not saying. And maybe those flags, you know, not being there, you know, some people find it easy to text and put things in writing because it clears the mind, or they don't feel as confrontational. So that's really important. That, Jason, just obviously we've heard what Sarah and Elizabeth have said there. Just on the foundation, just tell us a little bit about what you've achieved so far. You know, tell us about the initiatives. I guess some of the activities you had planned may have to be moved now, but because of the current. But just give us a little bit of a picture of where you are.
Yeah. So at the moment, we've now completed our full board of trustees. So we've handpicked 12 trustees throughout the whole of the construction industry. Obviously, those that are currently on our framework agreement. So we've now got a full complement of the board. And then we're also looking to, and again, an idea coming from one of the trustees was, we're looking to actually challenge the ecosystem really, and get them all to sign a pledge to tackle this problem of mental health. So that's one of the initiatives we're looking at, is we're going to try and get all our framework providers to sign up to a pledge to continually tackle mental health and just see what they're doing. So that's something we're working on at the moment. With regards to previous initiatives, as you said, COVID's put a hold on quite a few. We tried to go down to the biggest construction event in Old Bangers, that got pushed back. So that's now going ahead, hopefully next year. We've also tried doing the coast to coast as well more recently. That's been cancelled as well. Again, we're going to push that on to next week. However, we have had some lockdown initiatives. We've done an online bake-off, which went down really well, so helped us raise some money there. And then we're also looking to do some, like a rowing event, which may also be online as well, 24-hour rowing event. So we're looking to do that. So that's some of the initiatives so far. Sort of money in the bank, as it were. There's about £32,000 raised at the moment. And then we're just looking for ideas as to how we're going to spend that. So I think that's the next meeting. We'll be looking at that and just seeing how we can push out there, raise mental health awareness, and help it on its way.
I mean, that's great. 32,000 is a great start, and it'd be interesting to see how the foundation sort of deploys those funds. I mean, a 24-hour rowing event where you go nowhere.
Yeah,
that's going to be quite interesting. Are you doing that, Jason? Are you doing it? Are you doing it, Sarah, Elizabeth? Will you be involved in the rowing events?
I'm absolutely on board with the rowing events. I've got myself a personal trainer.
Oh, right, okay.
So yes, it sounds like a good positive challenge to get involved with.
Okay. So just tell me then, both of you, Sarah, why did you? I mean, apparently you were handpicked, so that's the first point I'd make there from Jason. But when you were handpicked, what was it that you said? Look, I really want to get involved in this. Exactly. What is it? What did you say? I want to be involved in this foundation. What was it that made you choose to join us?
I think, as is always the case with these things, sometimes it's in the timing. And something I didn't mention was that my background is in psychology and health and well-being and people and how you motivate. And when it was very shortly off the back of me listening to this very inspirational person, this very brave person that stood up at the conference and told their story, that I was approached about the Pagabo Foundation. And I had been involved in some of our initiatives internally in Wilmot Dixon, but I kind of knew that I needed to do a bit more, and that we all need to learn from each other. As one company, Wilmot Dixon, I think, is doing okay with our people, but we've always got things to learn and grow. And I want to share what we are doing and learn from other people. And the great thing, as Jason said, by working with the Pagabo Foundation, is we have the weight of Pagabo to influence other companies in the construction industry as well. And whilst I love a bit of a 24-hour row and raising money for these fabulous causes, actually what's really exciting me is the influence that we can have ourselves to do things and learn and grow and really kind of make a difference, because this is actually people's lives that we're talking about here. So there's a real opportunity. So
it's a bit more than thought leadership. It's that being able to make a difference, I think. Would we summarise it in that way, would you say? And
I think I have just personally, I've got two boys, and they're young at the moment and they still talk to me. But there's going to become a point when they don't want to talk to me about the stuff that's going on in their lives, and whether they end up in construction or another industry, you kind of want to hope that there are these things in place to support them. As they
safety nets, and the wherever they choose to work, that company and that sector treats people properly. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah. We know there's lots of us listening today and talking today of a certain generation where we didn't have all the pressures that our young people have and are going to have growing up. So we need to work even harder to protect them a little bit more.
So Elizabeth, what you were handpicked as well. Jason's told us that. So, Sarah's put some great points there as why she's joined the foundation, the Pagabo Foundation. Just give us a little bit of summary of why you want to be involved and what you want to actually get involved and how you want to get involved.
So as I share with Sarah that appetite to influence as well. I'm always researching in my role, whether that is looking at industry trends or looking at sort of the latest innovation practices in terms of people. There's a growing number of published surveys into mental health in the industry, and they've helped, I think, start to help us understand the scale of the issue and the climate in which the cases of anxiety, stress, depression, other mental health concerns are arising in the industry. And although I've only been 18 months at Pick Everard, I've worked in the industry for 11 and a half years now. So I've worked with organisations within the industry to look at mental wellbeing and mental health strategies and implement some of the positive initiatives. And some organisations are doing the same, which is fantastic. It's not consistent across the industry. And unfortunately, these efforts are not themselves enough to drive the change that's needed in the industry. And I think that despite some of that fantastic work that started, it is only through a collaborative effort that we can gain change on this and come together, so that, some of us who have that passion for mental well-being, who have that influence, can make sure that we're reaching a much wider audience. And I reached a stage where ultimately it wasn't enough to champion this within one organisation. That obviously absolutely remains high on the agenda and is incredibly important, but it is a much broader issue. And the Pagabo Foundation, it provides that opportunity for us to come together, to use our collective strengths, to undertake that crucial work that Jason's spoken about continuing to raise awareness and signposting those in need, and also raising funds for more people to be accessing the right support. So for me, it's both a responsibility and a privilege.
Yeah.
Opportunity to get involved. And I also obviously love all the innovative ways in which you've gone about your fundraising so far, and very much excited about what that looks like going forward.
It sounds like we've got some great sort of ideas there. 32,000 so far is great. Jason, what's the future target, if there is one? And are there any other activities immediately we need to be aware of? Because as we all know, World Mental Health Day is approaching, 10th of October. So that's a date in our diary in terms of this. So is there a target, Jason, and any future activities just around the corner, apart from the 24-hour rowing, which I will not be doing?
It's an interesting question, that, because I suppose target-wise, we're not really to sort of, the end game is not to raise lots of money. It's really about promotion and raising awareness. And I think what we do need to do as a group, and again, our next meeting we'll be looking at this, is to come up with some tangible objectives. So our overall main objective is obviously to raise awareness of mental health by raising funds and promoting that awareness. But really, I think what we do need to do is come up with some tangible objectives. Obviously, the main one is what I've mentioned before, is coming up with a charter for everyone to sign up throughout our ecosystem. So that would involve around about just over 300 construction providers within the industry. So I think that's quite a good target. So I think one of the targets there would be to, let's get everybody signed up within the next 6 months. Let's put some objectives in there. It's about raising awareness and some other sort of tangible objectives as well. I suppose one of the other objectives that we could come up with is, how many people can we train within the industry? So we do have some money there to use. So do we go about providing training? And then the other sort of target as well is looking at initiatives, innovation and different products coming through the market where we can do things differently, I suppose, faster as well. So we can do things faster into the industry. So coming up with ideas or looking at technology throughout the whole of the industry and saying, right, how can we do things differently? How can we provide, those monies or efforts, or again, with our collective power throughout the foundation, to actually say, right, how can we make a difference there? So I think target wise, I mean, I think monetary, I think if we aim to raise around about £50,000 a year, then I think we can hit those tangible objectives really throughout the foundation. Then obviously we can grow that over a period of time. But at the moment, I think we just need to concentrate on our framework, our own ecosystem, and let's start pushing the message out there. And then once we do get bigger, let's pushing it throughout the whole industry, not just the eco providers.
I mean, I like the idea about outcome targets. Obviously, we need money, or the foundation needs money to deliver and deploy, resources to achieve them. But I like the outcomes that support the agenda in our sector. That I thought that was a very strong sort of message. So that's good. Right. So I just want to say I'm going to ask you all one question in a second, and you must restrict it to 30 seconds if you can. I'll ask you all one question. You restrict it to 30 seconds, please. But really, it's just been great. Been great to hear both Sarah and Elizabeth from Wilmots and Pick Everards, and obviously Jason from Pagabo. Great thoughts today. Great insight. We've got people on the trustees board who I think are there to really make a difference and actually drive the agenda forward for Pagabo Foundation, but also for the sector, which I think is fantastic. And it looks like there's some shared values between everybody, which I think is fantastic. So just to finish up, I'm going to ask you all the same question. So whoever gets asked it first has got the least time to prepare for it, and the one who gets asked last has got the most time. So I'll start with Jason. Jason, 30 seconds. Tell everybody who's listening to the podcast what they should do themselves to support mental health.
I think one of the main things I think with the podcast is let's share this podcast around as much as we can, and let's see if we can get it out there. And the more we share it, then obviously the more awareness we raise, and hopefully we do good in society. I think there's about 30 seconds.
Yeah. It was actually 24 seconds, so that's good. So, Sarah, you look prepared. You're off mute. So, what's your advice for everybody who's listening?
If you are a line manager, when you have your one-to-ones, ask, how are you? As the first question, rather than jumping in to, what have you done?
Brilliant.
That's it.
No, that's great. That's a really strong point and a strong message to our listeners today. And Elizabeth, what's your advice for everybody?
So I think self-awareness is difficult to find, but absolutely crucial, and understanding how you can keep yourself physically well and mentally well is very, very important. And I think also communication. So letting others know that if you are there to support them, that they can reach out to you in whatever way they need to, so that when they are ready to talk, and sometimes it can take some time, you're there for them.
Brilliant. So stay well, talk, and
Yes.
share this information. They're the three messages from all of you. So, okay, it just leaves for me to say thank you, everybody. Thank you to my guests today, Sarah Fraser from Wilmot Dixon, Elizabeth Hardwick-Smith from Pick Everards, Jason from Pagabo, and this is a Pagabo podcast building blocks production from our marketing team, Ben and Will. Well, it's fantastic, and we'll see it out on the podcast universe or wherever it goes very, very shortly. So thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.